edition of Soccer Down here. May 1st, Friday. We're getting ready for the weekend, I guess. I don't know what's different than what we're normally doing on a normal day these days. Weekends don't matter. Times don't matter. Meals, you can have breakfast for dinner. You can have dinner for breakfast. Welcome to the life in the age of the coronavirus. We'll try to catch you up on what's going on in the soccer world because there's a good bit. There's a lot of different things happening that we got to get into. We do have some good news in our neck of the woods, though, John, from a friend of the network.
Friend of the network, US, and actually, if you were with us for the watch-along last night, you would have seen him in action.
This is true.
John Hark's father-in-law was discharged from the hospital yesterday after 50 days of going head-to-head against COVID-19.
50 days?
Uh-huh.
Jeez.
Yeah, Ron Kunihiro started feeling sick on March 14th, admitted to the hospital just days later. Once he was tested, he was diagnosed with COVID-19 back on March the 20th, placed on a ventilator right away, and he was discharged from the Prince William Medical Center in Manassas, Virginia yesterday and is heading to a rehab center. So, sound the trumpets. Ron Kunihiro is an official ass kicker, if it wasn't already out there previously that he kicked ass.
That's awesome. That's the kind of good news that we like to hear these days. And John's been great with us with his time. Hope to be able to talk to him about this, but also about some soccer matches here coming up at some point.
Ron Kunihiro's family is hoping the story inspires others impacted by the coronavirus, according to our friends at Fox 5 DC, saying, never give up. Bottom line.
Yeah, this is where we're at with this. I mean, we're learning more about it. We're learning how people are dealing with it. We're learning about how people are conquering it. I mean, it's something that I don't know. I mean, I think we're all kind of saying these things about we've never seen anything like this. Like, you don't have anything to really judge it by. Yeah, it's not, the flu. It's not what we've seen before. It's different. And, I mean, you're getting to the point now where you're hearing about people with blood clot issues. You're hearing about this second week effect. Some people, it really takes hold of them. And 50 days dealing with anything in the hospital is just amazing to come out the other side of it. So, so glad for John, his wife's family. Like I said, they've always been great to us, and I'm glad they've got some good news today.
Yep. So figured that we would underline and exclamate that as the lead this morning, because I saw that come across the wires and I was like, yeah, we got to talk about that, even as the lead for the show, which is what it should be, especially these days. So it was good to see that come across the wires.
Yeah, 100%. We've got a bunch of stuff that has come across the wires of varying sorts over the last 24 hours. We've had a running competition in SDH HQ as to which country is going to take the crown for most bat-ish way of dealing with all of this. And Scotland has been the leader in the clubhouse for a long time. I think they still are, but they're starting to get a little bit of competition.
Yes, we have Switzerland. We have France. Well, Switzerland actually has to do with banking issues.
Switzerland is the country itself. It's not so much the league. Yeah. Although, who knows? Maybe they're involved too.
So we have Swiss banks. We have now. I want you, since you brought up the actual verbiage of what was going on in France, when you want to talk about France, I want. Yeah, you brought up the translation of the anger that is currently being shown by Lyon and Marseille toward each other in a meeting, and
it's from hold on. Well, this would have been
it's yesterday from L'Equipe.
Well, and I got it. I think the translation might have come from our friends over at
Fridays with Reddit.
I kind of like that groove.
Fridays with Reddit.
Yeah, it's it's a funny situation. So yesterday it felt like all of this was happening at the same time, and I was losing my mind, bouncing between Scotland and France and then Switzerland and all of it. So let me get the translation. So I'm assuming this was some kind of a Zoom call or video conference, or maybe it was just one of those phone calls where you had to press *6 to unmute yourself. And you had insults flying between the CEO of Lyon and the CEO of Marseille during this league executive administration meeting. Lyon's going to miss European football next season, first time since 1997. I'm just going to read this translation. It could be incorrect, but it's really funny. The tone rose between the president of Olympique Lyon, Jean-Michel Aulas, and his counterpart of Marseille, Jacques-Henri Ayrault, Tuesday during an emergency board meeting, board of directors of the league, of which the first was invited as president of the College of Ligue 1. Okay, this is a weird translation. This is the best part. Names of birds were even exchanged, to the amazement of the other participants dismayed by such a spectacle. What kind of argument or insult or anything gets a translation from French to names of birds were even exchanged, to the amazement of the other participants dismayed by such a spectacle?
And I was trying to think of the birds that possibly could be mentioned here, and the first one that popped into my head is based in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, that would be one. I don't know if you're referring to bird in this type of insult, but okay.
Is a chicken a bird?
Yeah, why would it not be a bird?
Okay, just checking, because that was, like I said, that was what popped into my head as the first possible bird that could have been exchanged here.
If somebody wants to get us official confirmation on is a chicken a bird, please at OSG Nelson let him.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. So they're calling each other bird names, and everybody's amazed and dismayed at all of this. I hope this happened on video because that needs to leak. That would be amazing. I need some good entertainment. Thank you, France. But here's the deal. You've got, let's see, what has happened in France over the last couple of days. You stopped the league because the government said you had to. You declared promotion relegation. You declared your European spots. BN Sports and Canal Plus have refused to make TV rights payments following the end of the season. You're going to miss out on €243 million. Amiens, one of the teams that's getting relegated, they have come forth and said that they are going to, have they said they're going to or they're thinking about it? They will publish an official press release as soon as possible to inform its spectators, supporters, partners, and shareholders of the current procedures. They're basically considering legal action. Lyon is considering legal action. They might sue for damages of not making Europe. You've got bird names being exchanged. I mean, it's madness. Toulouse is a little bit of a dumpster fire of a team, but of course they would threaten legal action too because they're not going to miss out on the fun. And this is France. This is the French league right now. This is where we're at, and these are the challenges that come from when you have to stop the league early and don't get to finish it. And, they could say that they would after the stoppage of play and the government decree, but everybody else might be done by that point, or they might not. You don't know. France went ahead and said, we're going to stop it. And on top of it, they didn't do what the Dutch did, where they said, we're going to stop it and no promotion, no relegation. The Dutch are still going to have to deal with the European spot issue. The French are going to have to deal with that and the relegation part of it. And it's going to be a mess. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be bad, 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 bad.
From the Daily Mail, French sports minister Roxana Maracineanu said aggrieved clubs were welcome to explore legal options, but has also called for restraint. Editorializing. Good luck on that. Quote, if they want to go to court, let them go. Maracineanu told RMC Sport, quote, the sports movement is autonomous. This is valid for professional sport and amateur sport alike. In this situation, there are some who are content and some who are dissatisfied. I think she gets the Undersell of the Day award. I appeal to everyone's solidarity and responsibility. I appeal to the wealthy and better off, that they don't split hairs. We must also think of others and society. The world must know how to take its losses. So that word salad coming from the Minister of Sport.
Okay. I don't know what any of that really meant. Be nice. Don't go to court. But if you want to go to court, go to court. We can stop you.
Right.
But please don't. That would not be kind. And
yeah,
but, you know, we can't stop you again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that the sports minister basically said something for the sake of saying something to sit there to say that she said something.
Yeah.
Friends.
He's quiet. Quiet.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. What else are we calling each other bird names still in France? Do we have anything else on the French?
No, that is the only update that we have. Thank you.
Wow. I don't. Okay. I'm just going to let that one go.
We don't have anything new. That was the latest that we have out of France so far. We're waiting for the next round of legal action to come from there.
Okay. Let's see. No, we do have more. I've got more.
Cool.
I mean, it's nothing major, but it's a little bit of clarification. This is in AS in Spain. They say that the decision to end the season is binding. Despite warnings from Toulouse, Amiens, or Lyon to take the decision to court, the president of the league ratified the decision. In these periods, translated of course, in these periods in which we live, it has been difficult to make the decisions. We know that there are always winners and losers, that the decisions are difficult to make, but we consider that the measure we have decided to apply has been the least harmful for the clubs, which is not necessarily wrong. I mean, there's not a perfect way to solve this. This may be the least harmful would be to do what the Dutch have done, maybe, but then you're still harming the teams that would be coming up. I think the absolute least harmful way to stop the season, if that's what you have to do, is you would promote, not relegate.
Yeah.
You would leave the possibility open for a playoff for European qualification if you are able to play games before a certain date. That feels like the absolute least harmful way to do it. France doesn't have that last option because they can't play anything before September 1st. They could have promoted and not relegated. I think that would have probably been a little bit safer, but then you have a complicated season the next year. I'll take that trade-off. Yes. I would take figuring out the next season with a larger schedule than relegating teams who don't get a chance to finish their season and try to stay up.
Yeah, for me, that would be the way that I would try to pull something off for 2021 and 2022. Tafka says that the French sports minister comment was a boo freaking woo, get over it, end quote, response.
Of course, the lawyer would say that because he wants to go to court. He wants to take them all to court. And he probably could, although you do have this is Natalie Boy responding to Alas from Lyon, says, our decisions are sound. Legally, they are valid, and we have been careful when making them. I'm assuming we're going to get that statement tested in a court.
Yes.
And we'll find out. I don't know. I don't know the statutes. I don't know the league regulations. I mean, if there's some kind of clause that they can stop the season at the last completed date and declare winners and declare European qualifiers and declare relegated teams, then if it's there, it's there.
So we will definitely see what's going on with France going forward. France, yes, quite. You want to go to Scotland?
Do I want to go to Scotland? I always want to go to Scotland because I'm thoroughly entertained by Scotland.
In Scotland today.
Actually, let's go back to yesterday first.
Okay, in Scotland yesterday.
Exactly.
That was terrible.
From our friends at the Scottish Sun. Air Chief Lachlan Cameron says he tried to change his SPFL vote to no, but was told he couldn't.
Wait a minute. So, you're allowing a team to change their vote from no to yes, but you're not allowing a team to change their vote from yes to no.
Apparently so. Aidan Scott, the Scottish Sun.
What?
So here's the Aidan Scott article before we get into today's update. Lachlan Cameron revealed he tried to change his SPFL resolution vote to no, only to be told he couldn't by guess who?
By who?
Our buddy Neil Doncaster.
Oh, our buddy Neil. Neil's good people.
The Air United chairman, Lachlan Cameron, said helped bring the championship season to an end after voting for the Chiefs' controversial proposal, and that's the wording from Aidan Scott. However, the vote was thrown into chaos with Dundee. We know about that. And the Dark Blues later told the governing body not to consider it cast. Speaking to PLZ Soccer, Cameron admits he didn't like the fact that Dundee held such a position of power at that point.
Well, yeah, they did.
And he revealed that he then tried to change his vote to a no, only for Doncaster to tell him he couldn't under the rules.
Okay.
SPFL rules prevent a yes vote being changed. Only a no vote can be reversed under the regulations.
You actually have a rule to say that a yes vote cannot be changed, but a no vote can be changed.
Apparently
That's
so.
written down?
Uh-huh.
I would love to hear how that came about, because that sounds like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
It sounds like Tafka could have a field day in Scotland with this.
Seriously, Tafka, go open up an office in Scotland. Good grief. So, let's play this back for a second.
Go for it.
Oh, man. Our buddy Neil comes out and says, well, I mean, the media are hassling us, and they really want to, like, they want answers, and we don't have the vote. We don't have all the votes in, and we don't know. Here's what they stand right now. Okay, and you didn't check your quarantine filter, as Neil called it.
Quarantine filter, yes.
And you missed it, and Dundee came to the realization, although there's been some differing stories a little bit about how this part happened, but we'll go with this one for now. Dundee realized when Neil came out and spoke, and probably shouldn't have, that their vote was one that was not there. And they said, you know what, well, let's just hold that back, because they could, because you can change a no vote. And let's see what happens. Let's see what people have to say about us doing that. So they do that, and then that comes out, and then Air United says, well, wait a minute, that's a load of bollocks, and we're going to do that, and we're going to take our yes vote off the table. So, we've got you, Dundee, except Neil then says, no, you don't. The rules don't let you do that. And then I'm assuming the chairman of Air probably threw a case of Iron Brew through a window.
Probably. Cameron explained, quote, obviously, I wasn't thrilled. The SPFL were asking us to make a decision in a couple of days. I think we got the papers on the Wednesday morning, and we had to make the decision on the Friday. Now, as a part of the bylaws, you have 28 days if you want it. Because of what's going on with coronavirus, I think everyone recognized that we needed to look all look past that and try to get it in as soon as possible, but you maintain the right to hold the 28 days. At the time, I thought maybe they're going to do it for a reason, or maybe they just screwed up, but they have the 28 days. I wasn't thrilled about it, and I didn't like the idea that someone was in a position of power, in fact, to the point where I called the SPFL and said, why don't I just change my vote to no? After being asked what Doncaster's reaction to his question was, Cameron added, very professional, typical of Neil Doncaster, who I spoke to. He explained to me that the way the rules were, you weren't able to change a yes vote to a no, just a quirk of the rules. The only way you could do it was the other way around.
That's a hell of a quirk.
You ain't kidding. Yeah, a quirk of the rules.
That's one way to put it.
Yes.
We have.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. This gets an uh-oh. This gets this too, and all right. In the courier.co.uk, headline: full transcript. Dundee chief John Nelms breaks his silence on SPFL vote saga. Thank you, George Cran. I love you today. Thank you. So George Cran had this sit-down interview with John Nelms. Nelms has lifted the lid on the events of the last month. We are giving his story to you exactly as he gave it to us. God, this needs like all the documentary right here. I mean, we need angles of every camera in the room on the sit-down. I need reaction shots. I need all of it. But we're not going to get it. We're just going to get us reading it. Sorry. Okay. So, the part that the air chairman talked about with getting it on a Wednesday and then the vote was on the Friday, and yes, they could have taken 28 days, but the league was wanting a vote done. That's all accurate, and that's been lost in the shuffle a little bit. That it's kind of like, here, take this, vote quick, give us an answer, now. It's kind of a big deal, and it feels a little roughshod. So Nelms says, George Cran starts it off with, you stated at the start you were going to vote no to the SPFL's resolution. What were your thoughts on it to begin with? And he said, from the beginning, I didn't want anything to go out that would hurt anybody at all. We had very limited time to look at things. The document itself didn't give much hope for reconstruction and didn't do a lot of things. Remember, Nelms has talked throughout this of not just wanting to vote on this resolution, but also reconstructing Scottish football and the league structure as a whole, because it's not really set up in the best way at the moment. So he wanted more than just the proposal from day one, and he's been consistent on that. He said, for me, I wasn't just thinking of Dundee a football club, but other clubs who would be hurt in all of this. This is at the beginning when he said he was going to vote no. That was my main focus. I didn't want anybody to get hurt. He said, the change came after a lot of conversations with a lot of clubs. Ding, 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 what? And the appetite for reconstruction was greater than I first thought. There are other things, which I don't want to get into. Ding, 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 ding. But we were trying to help these clubs who were going to be hurting. I was trying to soften the blow for everybody, but also trying to use the time between the deadline and submitting the yes vote to make Scottish football, through reconstruction, a better overall product that has more value going forward. Question. Have we heard anything about reconstruction since that vote was turned from a no to a yes? Have we heard one plan? Have we heard one proposal? Have we seen anything out of anybody about this mythical reconstruction of the Scottish League that was part of this decision? I'm going to go with no. We have not. That's a bit of a problem if it's such a huge element of it. Getting to that stage, we had over 80% of the clubs vote a certain way in order to get going, so to speak. I changed my vote so we could get on to the next phase. Okay. As far as the Premiership goes, all we did was vote to put it in the hands of the board. They now have in their hands the chance to say what they want to do with it. They can try to play later. There are options they will have to weigh. We weren't weighing those options, talking about the lower divisions. Question. What went through your mind when you saw the incomplete vote had been published? John Nelms. I wasn't best pleased. I know there was a statement saying, quote, "We had to put something out because we had a board meeting," unquote. But the statement could have been as simple as, quote, "We have an incomplete vote. There is a statutory 28 days, and we have not received every vote," unquote. Ding, ding, ding. That's a winner. Good job, John Nelms. By the way, it wasn't just our vote. There were others that weren't received either. What? When did what? I have not seen that anywhere, and we have not heard anybody else's vote in play. I'm skeptical of that part. They could have said it was an incomplete vote without any detail, and that would have been more appropriate, in my opinion. Absolutely. Question. At that point, you have said you weren't aware it was your vote that was missing. What did you think then? Nelms? I don't know what happened. I have no idea. What they say is it got caught in the spam folder, which you have to believe. We did intend to vote a certain way, and then changed it after I had more information. Why'd you vote in the first place? I talked with a lot of people. Really? I pace when I talk on the phone. Really? This Saturday, I walked 13.8 miles while on the phone, mostly inside my house. Can we see the Fitbit?
Yeah, exactly.
I averaged over the period before I voted over 11 miles a day just on the phone. Well, you were talking to a lot of people there, John. I mean, that's a lot of walking and talking.
It's 3 miles.
Huh. Okay. Question. What was the major part of changing your vote? Nelms? The biggest thing was the only way I could see, once we knew what was happening, that we could help anybody, it's not just helping people, but a longer-term, bigger picture, is Reconstruction. Again, I have a question. Where is any of this Reconstruction? I have not seen a proposal. Nobody's talking about it. What are you doing with it? Nelm said, speaking with a lot of clubs, and walking and talking, there was much more of an appetite for Reconstruction than I understood going into this. That was the main thing. Really, there was. Why did no one else want to hold their vote up? All the people who voted no, which there was at least enough that this would not have passed, they could have changed their vote if there was this appetite for it. So the appetite was on all the people who voted yes for this. I'm a little confused. This feels like talking in circles. Okay. Question. Can you understand why other people saw Dundee as the bad guy? Oh, boy. Nelms. Obviously, people think we have handed United the league. Rangers think we have handed Celtic the league, although that is in the hands of the board, which they have a representative on. Over 80% voted for it, and it was going to happen one way or the other. Wait a minute. No, it wasn't. This wasn't going to happen one way or the other because your vote that was cast, that ended up in the spam folder, would have not allowed this to happen. And then maybe there could have been this push for Reconstruction and a resolution. Just saying. No, it wouldn't have happened. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. We represent 3% of that vote total. That's a bold thing to say. You didn't represent 3% of that vote when you said don't regard our vote that ended up in the spam folder, and yes, we're the only vote left on the board, and we can make this happen or not. It represented a little more than 3% there, my friend. The only way going forward would be league reconstruction. Yeah, let's see it. Yeah, I can see why I'm the bad guy, but 81 or 82% of the league are also that same bad guy. Not as bad. The league did, in putting it out there, put us in a bad position. Correct. All right, question. The WhatsApp messages. Oh, I forgot about these. Between Dundee and other championship clubs leaked in the days after the initial vote deadline passed. Did that influence your thought process? Nelms. It's unbelievable. The way that was handled was not businesslike and was very poor. It has caused a lot of bad blood throughout the league. The way that was done, taking private messages and putting them out there. I'm going to put my hand up for a second and say that voting and then realizing when the league is... What were our decisions from the previous interview with Neil that the league was either incompetent or what word did they use?
Oh, God, I remember.
I mean, it can be crooked if we want to say that. We will use it for now. So I'm going to assume that changing your vote when the league did something that was either incompetent or crooked, changing your vote at that point probably caused more bad blood than this reaction to that, which was leaking WhatsApp messages where you said you were going to vote no. I'm just wild assumptions here. Okay. Of course, they have been taken out of context at some levels because you don't know exactly what was going on and what the conversations were. There were a lot of conversations going on at that time. Loads of them. So you don't get the full context of it. But you do get one view, and that's what they wanted. Well, of course they did. Question. You mentioned handing Dundee United the championship. Did that come into the thinking at any point? Nelms, obviously, as Dundee Football Club, we don't want to hand our rivals anything. But at the end of the day, it was inevitable that was going to happen. I had several conversations with Mal, who is the managing director of Dundee United, throughout this. Several conversations with Rangers, with Celtic, with Hearts. I've had conversations with quite a few people. Lots of ding-ding-dings. You could tell early on that there would be promotion relegation, and there was no way around it because over 80% of the clubs wanted that to happen. There was a way around it if your no vote had actually stood. Gah! Whether or not we wanted that to happen, it was going to happen. I'm not going to make a decision based on what happens to United. I have to make the decision on what's best for Dundee Football Club and what's best for Scottish football. All good. All fine. Okay. To make it clear, what was the benefit to Dundee in changing your vote? All right, Nelms. We were in the worst position possible. We were in third place. There's not much benefit one way or the other that we could get out of this. When people ask me that, I ask, what do you think we could have gotten out of this? Well, I don't know, Nelms. You were talking on the phone enough to walk 13 freaking kilometers. I don't know. So the best thing we could possibly get out of this is a proper conversation about reconstruction. I've missed that actually happening. That might not benefit us in the short term, but in the long term, it would benefit Dundee FC and all of Scottish football. That, for me, was the best thing we could get out of this. Does that do anything for us right now? No. But we need to look at it in a much bigger, broader picture as opposed to what does it do for me right now. Totally agree with that, but haven't really heard anything about reconstruction since the talk about needing reconstruction during the vote changing thing, and now we've heard nothing about it since the vote was ratified. I'm maybe going to give them slightly the benefit of the doubt that they're waiting for the Premiership to make a decision on this current season. I don't know why that would affect discussing reconstructing the league going forward. I'm blown away by how much reconstruction is brought up in this when it has not been brought up this much since the vote situation. It's crazy. Okay, so are you confident reconstruction is going to happen and benefit the game in the long term? We are having good conversations. We have to jump through a load of hoops, and we have 42 clubs we have to satisfy on some level. For me, the most important thing is that Scottish football, and in turn, Dundee Football Club, comes out with a product that is better than we currently have. Sky Sports and our media partners need to be part of this too and help us understand exactly what it is going to take in order for us to be a more attractive product, a more sellable product. We want to be on TV. We want more people to come to games. We need to make games have more meaning. We have to do things that might be outside of the box to bring viewers to the table. That's the angle I come at it from. I can't talk to you about the specifics of what the group is talking about because we are trying to work through all of these things, but the principle, from my point of view, is that we have to absolutely make it a more attractive proposition for fans and for viewers. There are ways of doing it. I totally agree with all this. So if there is this push for this, and if this is a big part of the conversation, and if this is what Dundee FC wanted to push through, first off, why did you vote no? Second, why didn't more clubs push back on this proposal when it was brought to the floor instead of everybody voting in 2 days for it? Because everybody voted. Dundee SC was just the one who realized that they could pull theirs back. Everybody actually voted. So if this was such the thing and such the push, Did they feel like they had to vote to end the current season before they could talk about this? My guess and my experience and my maybe studying on these things is if your ultimate goal is reconstruction, right? And you've got the league structure saying, we need a resolution on this right now. We need an answer. We need to decide if we're going to finish the season or if we're going to declare it over. We need to know now. You got 2 days. Give me a vote now. Because that's kind of how it went down. If you want something that the other side is not putting on the table, and in this case, the other side is the league office as opposed to the clubs, and the clubs all want reconstruction, why didn't a group come out and say, hey, Neil,
Dog.
we ain't voting. We got 28 days. They don't say dog in Scotland. We got 28 days. We ain't voting. We're going to talk about reconstruction. You going to talk?
Mm-hmm.
You want your resolution to the season? Okay, cool. Let's talk. We got 28 days. But nobody did that. That's my problem with this. It feels like an excuse after the fact.
Of course.
That's the part I don't like about it. Does it need reconstruction? Yes. Spectators in the building, it's down. It doesn't look good at times. They need more TV money. Every league needs these things. Scotland needs these things in a big way. They need to figure out with their TV partners, with the clubs, what the best way forward is. I 100% agree with all of that. But the way that this part of it and lumping that into this, it feels very, yeah, we're the bad guys here. I need something to get out of this. Okay, let's keep talking about reconstruction.
Shiny object.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a real shame because it's needed. And now that's going to be made to look like a scapegoat when it is needed. It is something that the league structure has to figure out. But now that's going to be like, oh, well, Dundee's talking about all this, blah, 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 and we don't like Dundee. Blah. Like, that's the problem. You handled this incredibly poorly. Question about reconstruction. Do you see it being better to make a permanent change or a temporary one, like was suggested in Hart's first statement after the reconstruction talks were announced? Nelms, I don't know. That's the problem. I don't think it's as simple as we can make one big change right away. I think it might be something that phases in over time. Yeah, I mean that's how you build to that. All that makes sense. I have probably more of an issue with the way the league handled this than the way Dundee FC handled it. I do think this is a little disingenuous, putting all the talk about, well, everybody voted for it this way, and not really saying, well, we realized we had more power by pulling our vote back when they didn't count it initially, and we moved on that. You got to admit that. Like, there's just no other way around it. You have to admit that. The league gave that to you because the league handled this in the most juvenile, ridiculous, incompetent / crooked way you've ever seen. It's mind-blowing that the league did that. They're the real bad guys in this. Dundee just realized that they had power that was, dropped in their lap, and they took it. And I don't know what they got out of it. If they didn't get anything out of it, then why'd they drag it out? Why'd they hold it? They haven't got some, like, there wasn't some part of this saying that we're going to get this reconstruction talk, we're going to do all this, and like that had nothing to do with it. They just pulled their vote back, talked to everybody for days, and Nelms walked a whole lot while he was talking to everybody, and then changed their vote and put the proposal through. The proposal had a lot of support and didn't have enough to get passed. It was not going to pass with the no vote. It did with the yes vote. You can't run away from that. You have to say, like, yeah, we know what we did. We did it for this. And by the way, the league was really stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your statement. That's it. The league did something incredibly stupid. We realized we had more power than our vote did initially. We took that power. We talked to a lot of people. This is what we talked about. This is what we're hoping to accomplish through our talking. If he was building up a coalition, if he was building up a group of stakeholders, all these things, that's great. Give us a little more information, I mean, he kind of alludes to it here. There's a question about the stakeholders talking. Is that just all the teams in general, or is that coming from Nelms walking and talking for days when he pulled his vote back? If that's what it did, you probably should say that, because that is a good resolution out of it. If you realize that the league did something stupid, they dropped power into your lap, you took said power, you used it to build a coalition to talk about what's good for the overall game of Scotland, what changes the league structure needs to build up a network. Now, I would have probably held my vote longer if that was the case and made sure that I actually had movement on this group as opposed to just talking. But if that's the way you want to go, it's the way you want to go. At least tell us what you got out of it. And it doesn't have to be a bunch of money. It doesn't have to be a bunch of sponsors. If it is, you should probably go ahead and say that too, because that's going to come out. If that happened, then yeah, that's going to come out. But if it was just to build a coalition to change the game for the better and change the league structure for the better, be clear and explain that and explain why you did this instead of all this other nonsense. And yes, call the league stupid for doing something stupid, because they did, and they need to be called out on it. And whether they were crooked or incompetent, that stuff can't happen. And, oh, yeah, change the rules so you can not change votes, period, instead of being able to change no votes to yeses and not yes votes to nos, because that's idiotic.
The Daily Record article that we talked about, Keith Jackson asked, you're either guilty of incompetence or corruption.
Corruption, okay. There we go.
So to add to all of this, the top flight clubs, according to the Daily Mail, Scottish Daily Mail, Stephen McGowan, they're going to try to resolve their differences today via clear the air talks on a
sure,
video.
That'll go well.
On a video conference call of all 12 Premiership teams that will see Aberdeen's Dave Cormack and Ron Gordon of Hibs dial in from North America, facing calls for his suspension, and this is from the article, and an independent investigation into the vote to call the season early. League Chief Executive Neil Doncaster will not take part in discussions.
No, they shouldn't. If you're talking about an inquiry into what they did, then no, they shouldn't be involved in those discussions.
Sportsmail understands warring chairmen and chief executives will use a club-only Zoom session for constructive discussions over the serious pressing issues caused by the coronavirus crisis.
All right, here's where they are at this point. There has to be an inquiry about the league's actions, because they do look either incredibly incompetent or corrupt. It's a fact. Like that, from the way the proposal was sent out with just a couple days' notice, all of that, it felt very heavy-fisted. It's absolutely poor. The Premiership owners, the other owners, chairman, what have you, they should all be talking about those actions. That should be happening. Nothing wrong with that. The Rangers-Celtic part of this about handing a league title and blah, 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 that's all a bunch of hogwash. It has nothing to do with any of it. It's old, stupid rivalries being brought to the fore to this that have nothing to do with it. Push that stuff to the side. If Rangers wants to go down that road and make it about Celtic, then they're going to lose any bit of goodwill that they have in this. Them saying that the league office has made these mistakes, and they say that they've got all this evidence of corruption or crookedness or whatever. Bring it, explain it, and let's move on. Stop making this about, well, we wanted to win the title. You weren't going to win the title, more than likely. And handing the title to Celtic, if you can't play any more games, hand them the freaking title. This kind of stuff is stupid. The reconstruction idea needs to be the most important conversation that they're having, because they need it. Right now the league is very top-heavy, Celtic and Rangers, in terms of money, in terms of interest, in terms of everything, and they need to find ways to grow the game in Scotland. And that has to work all the way through the pyramid. That has to work all the way down to the grassroots. It has to work with the TV partners, the media partners. That's all big. That needs to be the most important part of all this. They need to make the determination on the league office. Were they incompetent? Smack them on the wrist. Potentially suspend whatever you want to do there. If you want to go hire somebody else because they were incompetent, that's fine. If you find that they were crooked or there was vote selling or any of that, then you got to come in very hard and you got to handle it. Deal with that, and then deal with the reconstruction. That's it. That's where Scotland is at this point. They need to move on from this, because the longer this stuff lingers and we're getting these kinds of things coming out, the more the league looks like a joke, and the more you lose any opportunity to get more interest. And they have to stop that, because these are proud clubs. This is a great, country for the game. I mean, Scotland as a whole country with the sport is not where they should be. They're never going to be a world power. They're just not big enough. That's fine. But we haven't seen Scotland in a major competition in a long time. And that shouldn't be the case. Let's be real. If Iceland is getting into competitions and scaring people, Scotland can. Scotland should. Scotland's got more heritage. Scotland should be doing that at least. They should be the lovable underdog, and they're just not. And that's got to be part of this conversation. All this infighting, all this nonsense, not helping at all. They got to move past it.
From the Daily Mail, following a meeting of the reconstruction group Thursday night, however, a paper presented to the clubs for consideration on the pros and cons of a 14-team top tier is certain to be aired. It's unclear if Rangers' calls for an independent investigation into the league's handling of the matter will be discussed. Other issues, like you mentioned, up for discussion include the Sky Sports broadcast deal and season tickets, with an update on plans to restart football based on the current medical advice. The SFA and the SPFL will join the Scottish Rugby Union in holding talks with Scottish Government Sports Minister Joe Fitzpatrick over plans to get live sport up and running again after Neil Doncaster told the newspaper the national game now faces an existential crisis.
It does. I mean, it does in every part of the world right now, but in Scotland, and this is what we're seeing with clubs in financial trouble, if you were already in trouble before this has just accentuated it. So Scotland was already, needing to figure out changes to the game in the league, in the national team structure, all of it. Now it's even worse. And now you have less resources to work with, and now you have more scary things going on with it. So, it's nothing new, but yeah, that's 100% true. I mean, it is an existential crisis, and they've got to figure this out, and they've got to work with their TV partners, because that's going to be a huge part of it.
Life in the Sky Bet Championship. Leeds and West Brom, according to the Daily Mail, will be promoted to the Premier League if the championship season is cancelled, playoffs going ahead as normal, according to The Guardian. Okay. EFL are locked in talks about how to resume the campaign behind closed doors amid the coronavirus crisis, with League One and League Two increasingly unsure about playing to a conclusion. Championship officials are more confident about restarting, said to be a preferred contingency plan in place should that not be possible. So the Guardian article has Leeds and West Brom awarded automatic promotion, with the four teams occupying the playoff positions facing each other. Fulham goes against Preston North End, Brentford, Nottingham Forest, the winners going on for that final spot. Semifinals, according to The Guardian, could be played as one-offs at a neutral venue rather than two legs. All games behind closed doors with no fans. Which may not necessarily go all that well with folks like Bristol City, Millwall, Cardiff, Blackburn, and Swansea, who are all in the running for those for spots 3 through 6 if the season stops as is.
Yeah, and that's going to be part of the conversation. I get it. But if you can't finish the season and you are going to have, whether it's promotion, relegation, whether it's European spot qualification, lots of different elements here. If you're going to have those things and you can't finish the season, there are going to be teams that are going to narrowly miss out. There's nothing you can do unless you're going to say at this point, all right, your first two, yep, you guys are getting promoted. We're going to expand the playoffs, and we will have the playoffs before the next season. And look, in a country like England, you could do it somewhat easily because you're going to have a gap between the seasons. Maybe, well, see, even that's going to be tricky. I mean, unless you're just going to create a schedule for the Premier League with the teams but a blank spot for this extra team, and they're just going to have to assume that schedule when it's created, and and go from there. And if that's the case, that's the case. And do that at the beginning of the season, essentially. So, like, let those teams, for whatever, if it's possible, if it's not, whatever, start training earlier if you can, and play those games at the end of training camp before league matches start for the next campaign. I don't know. See, that's the thing, is that's what you're trying to come up with if you want to say, well, man, 3 through 6, it's really, really close all the way down to like 10.
Mm-hmm.
If you say, well, if you're within a certain number of points, then you get into a playoff structure. Okay, then you do the playoff structure, and then you have to start the next season immediately afterwards. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. But, man, that's convoluted.
The issue of players who will see their contracts end on June 30th also remains a big issue in the EFL, and central to what sources describe as, quote, a lot of infighting, end quote, between clubs. Sportsmail on Friday had the idea Rick Perry and the EFL would like the transfer window to remain open until next March to give clubs more time to trade and try to recover losses that they have suffered during the suspension of football.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do here. The contract stuff, it's going to be down to the players and the clubs, because the league bodies, the FAs, UEFA, FIFA, they can't extend a contract without players' consent. It's not going to be possible. So you're going to have to get a short-term agreement. And the lower down the pyramid you go, the more situations like that you're going to have. So clubs are just going to have to figure it out. And if they don't have the money, then they're going to have to bring up their academy kids. Like, yeah, it's just it is what it is. I hate it that it is, but there's nothing else you can do. If you're gonna finish the season, then you're gonna finish the season. If you're not gonna finish the season, then the contract's running out. It doesn't matter. If you're gonna finish it, then you got guys out of contract on June 30th. You got to figure something out, and that's it. If it's a game by game contract, if it's a week to week, I have no idea. If it's deferred money, if it's signing a longer term deal, which would obviously be the ideal way, the league's going to have to make a decision too on, is a window going to open where players can change teams at that point? Because that's the other element of it. It's one thing if your right winger is out of contract on June 30th and you're trying to decide, well, do I want to keep this guy? Can I keep this guy? I want to keep him for a month to finish this season out. Okay, cool. But if your rival has a couple games coming up and they say, man, I want that guy, I'll sign him for a couple months. Hey, let me go sign him. I mean, you can keep him away from your rival, but can you actually play him for the rest of the season? Is the league going to allow that? If the league says no, which is what they could do, I'm assuming they could just say, like, sure, you can sign a contract, but you can't be registered to play for this team until the next season starts.
Yeah, right.
Then that's going to put it back to the player, and the player's going to have to make a decision. Do they want to sign a short-term deal with the club that they're at, finish it out, then become a free agent? Do they want to sign a long-term deal with the club that they're at and then just problem solved? Or do they want to sign a contract with a new club and sit out and wait? That's going to be the options on the table, and that's going to make for a really interesting period of time.
Did you see this in the Daily Mail where the League Cup could be scrapped if the size of the Premier League is increased because of coronavirus?
Oh, no. I'm very sad about the Gummy Bear Cup leaving us.
Sportsmail understands a number of top-flight officials have held private discussions over what happens next year and see the potential for an increased number of matches as an opportunity to get rid of what, to many, is an unnecessary distraction.
Yep.
Growing feeling among some Premier League clubs ahead of the Project Restart meeting, which is today scheduled, that completing the current season is becoming impossible. A number believe that the most likely outcome to the current campaign will be a proposal which sees no clubs relegated 2 or 3 clubs promoted from the championship, with those chosen to go calculated on merit-based scoring, in all likelihood a points per game idea. And then 6 clubs would be then relegated in 2021-2022.
So that idea is to scrap the playoffs for promotion, not relegate anybody, and have 2 or 3 come up based off the table and points per game.
Yeah. For one season, it would increase the number of Premier League fixtures from 38 to 44. As a result, the 2 domestic competitions, League Cup and FA Cup, would come under intense pressure to go either permanently or for one season. So that's also an idea that is being thrown out there as well.
The League Cup can go forever. It's a waste. It's a dumb competition. You already have an FA Cup. You don't need a separate League Cup. It's too much. Bye. Adios.
So there you go. Would you be open? I don't know if open or amenable or whatever word you want to use to the full promotion and the 44 game schedule. No relegation.
It's the most fair way to do it. I mean, if you're going to relegate teams when they don't finish the season out and they have the opportunity to play their way into staying up, and you don't give them that, that's kind of a harsh burden to put on it. If you say, well, we're going to take away the harsh burden, but we're going to keep the promotion reward for teams that have earned it, and we're going to have a temporary larger first division, okay. I think that's about as fair as you can do. You're still going to have teams that complain. You're going to have teams that say, well, you know, we could have earned our way into the promotion spots. Yeah, and we don't get to finish the season. You know, it is what it is. But that feels like the most fair way to do it.
And our last stop in Europe for the moment, Switzerland.
Okay.
From Ken Benzinger, and this happened once again after we went off the air yesterday. Bank Hapoel Alim has agreed to pay more than $30 million for its role in the FIFA corruption scandal. The Israeli bank, which also operates in Switzerland, admitted it, quote, conspired to launder over $20 million in bribes and kickbacks to soccer officials, end quote.
Oh, Switzerland. Everybody thinks it's all nice and happy in neutral times, and then your bank is helping launder money and provide kickbacks. Good times.
Hapoel Alim signed a non-prosecution agreement admitting that between 2010 and 2015 it laundered at least $20.7 million in bribes paid by Argentine sports marketing firm Full Play for soccer TV rights. It also laundered money for former Colombian soccer boss Luis Bedoya, according to the prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York. And if you've got prosecutors coming at you from the Eastern District of New York, that is not a district that you want coming after you. Hapoel Alim compliance officials repeatedly raised concerns about payments to soccer officials, but the bank's relationship managers, quote, continued executing illicit bribe and kickback payments, end quote. As a part of its deal with the U.S. Department of Justice, the bank will forfeit about $20.7 million and pay a fine of a little over $9 million. It will close its branch in Miami and is in the process of closing down its Swiss operation as well, per the DOJ press release.
Anything else?
That's plenty, isn't it?
Yeah. Send Judge Judy after him. We'll get this taken care of.
All right. Beginning of hour number 2, I guess.
Yes. You know what that means, don't you?
That means that we get to promote stuff. And you know, if you're interested in picking up the guard that has been created, go ahead and tell folks about that.
Yeah, you can get a face mask because these are very important things these times. It's the kind that I like. It's like a sleeve. You can fold it up, make it a little bit smaller. You can have it cover your whole face from your eyes down if you want. You can do a lot of different things with it. Later on, when we're done with all this, you can wear it as a headband if you want. It's $20. Send us a message. We'll get you taken care of. And the cool thing about it is our friends at Die Hard have made this Really good on our end on the production side. So for that $20, you're going to get your guard, you're going to have your shipping covered, but you're also going to donate a guard to the kids and families at Soccer in the Streets who might not be able to get one themselves. So pre-order now. We're going to put the order in with Die Hard early next week and get these things out to y'all as quickly as we can. And also, you're going to be helping out the kids and families at Soccer in the Streets.
Yes. And if there's any other stuff that you would like to pick up when it comes to clothing, you can go to our Teespring store, teespring.com/soccer down here and pick up your Pankeke shirt or your Pankeke sweat, your geographic specific shirts. What else is at the Teespring store? Bunch of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. That too. Yes. So coffee mugs and stuff. And how are we on hats and scarves, by the way?
We still have some. So if you want some, let us know. Send us a message.
All right.
We'll get you taken care of. Hats and scarves and face guards, you need to send us a message. Everything else is on the Teespring store, and you can get hooked up that way.
And by the way, Jason, did you know that Soccer Down Here and the SDH Network are brought to us by our friends at Appolinsky & Associates, LLC?
Tell us about it, John.
Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, trial lawyers at aa-legal.com. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in verdicts and settlements serving clients in Georgia and Alabama, wrongful death and personal injury trial lawyers. The firm's founder, Stephen Appolinsky, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective trial lawyers in Georgia, recognized as one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia. Go to aa-legal.com. Start your chat live, real person, available 24/7, no obligation. You got questions? You got questions now? Well, maybe after the show. But you got questions at any point, live chats available on the website. You can also send Steve an email at Steve, S-T-E-V-E, at aa-legal.com. Give him a buzz at 404-377-9191. You can request a free consultation. There's only one place to find knowledgeable, compassionate, successful trial lawyers. That's at Appolinsky & Associates at aa-legal.com.
That's a good dramatic pause there.
I thought so. Kind of like murder. She wrote.
There you go, with the reference from 1983 again. Good job.
Pat Summerall and John Madden cutting promos on the NFL on CBS, my friend.
Still 1983.
Pretty much. And also the Jason Wright Agency, who is the major domo commissioner type for our fantasy league. And hopefully we'll be having fantasy leagues to discuss at some point in the future. Jason's been a great supporter of the SDH Network and Soccer Down Here ever since day one. Go to the Jason Wright Agency on Facebook and our friends at Country Financial. You can also go and follow Jason with a W in Wright. Jason WRIGHTAGEN on the Twitters. Reach out to Jason if you have any insurance questions. Jason Wright Agency and our friends at Country Financial. Also, proud supporters, backers, lovers of everything SDH and the SDH Network.
Lots of stuff, right?
Yes, I believe that would be accurate, yes.
Yes. All right, we're going to try to get a little bit more stuff right now.
Uh-oh.
If we can get him on the line.
Uh-oh.
Our good friend Mike Conti. We kind of missed the mark to get Mike on, but we're going to get him on now if he's free. Hopefully. That's what we've turned into in a quarantine land of doing shows. It just turns into complete and utter chaos, and time marks don't matter, and we ramble, and then Scotland happens, and we get distracted, and all of it.
Well, remember, we also have a question of the day that you posed for the Friday flashback.
We have a question of the day. We have an interview to play as well, but right now we got Mike Conti on the line. What's up, Mike?
You sure you don't want to play the interview?
No, we'll do that in just a bit.
Okay. What's going on, guys? How are you?
I got nothing.
Scotland happened, Mike.
Yes,
Scotland.
Yes.
I blame it all on Scotland.
So, did any more emails go into spam folders, or what's going on here?
No, but we learned, and I'm just gonna ask you for a take on this. So we learned that in the Scottish rules on votes, you can change a no vote to a yes, but you cannot change a yes vote to a no. That's actually in the rules.
Does that apply to parliamentary elections as well, or
no?
or
just league rules, I guess.
League stuff.
Ooh, that's kind of scary. Maybe it does.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think maybe the Scottish League is going to want to take a look at that for the next time we have a global pandemic, so maybe we can avoid that in the future. That seems to be a rather dubious rule. So what does this mean? Like, does this put everything back into flux, or is everything final now?
No, it's kind of final. It's everything below the top division is final. The top division has to make a decision on if they're going to be final or if they're going to try to finish. And there is also a sidebar battle about two things. One, was the league office incompetent or corrupt? And they might need to have an independent inquiry into it, because the first independent inquiry didn't appear to be too independent. And the other part is actually reconstructing the league in a different format, more teams in the first division, different scheduling, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, very complicated. And I'm sure there will be no shortage of strong opinions on the club side and on the league side, and maybe UEFA needs to step in here and add their 2 cents. Who knows? But what a mess! What a mess!
Well, they haven't resorted to what the French have when they declared everything final, and teams missed out on Europe and teams are getting relegated. You reportedly had an argument between two CEOs that turned into calling each other bird names, and onlookers, or I guess listeners into the call, were shocked and dismayed at this.
Is calling someone a bird name a profane insult in France? I'm not aware of that.
This was translated, so I don't know exactly what was meant by it. It's kind of an amazing thing. John had an idea about one of the said birds that could be involved.
Yes, the ones that are known in Columbia, South Carolina, that play in the Southeastern Conference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you were to throw that into Google Translate, that might come out in a much different way than it's intended. That's actually a pretty good call, John.
That might be it.
Yeah. Just as if you were to throw donkey into a Google Translator, you might get something you're not intending.
True. But no, Scotland has been the gift that keeps on giving for the wrong reason this entire week, Mike.
Yeah, it's tough. I think we talked about this a little bit on Stoppage Time yesterday. No one knows what to do because we haven't had to go through this before. So, yeah, it's a mess, and it's entertaining, and it's getting ugly, and it's getting ugly in other parts of Europe. But I think we do need to take a step back and just appreciate, again, the unprecedented nature that of the times we're in right now. And I'm willing to give, if it's a question of incompetence or fraud, I'm willing to give the Scottish League a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt because we've just never had to go through this before. It's an ugly situation, and we're kind of making stuff up on the fly. But, honestly, if this is any kind of positive distraction for the folks over there, then so be it.
Yeah, at least it's entertaining. At least it has gotten ridiculous to the point that people are laughing about it. But it's hard because, like you say, nobody's been through this, and the Dutch did it one way. The French have made a different decision, and both of them were stopped from playing by their government. Scotland made a vote to do most everything, but not all of it. Belgium made their own decision. So it's like everybody who has made decisions along the way is doing it differently, which adds to the confusion. Right.
Yeah. I think it's similar to what we're talking about with the upcoming college football season, where there's not this national college football commissioner that can help make all the conferences and all the schools make their own decisions. You have 120 plus member institutions that are all going to make separate decisions. And when you have that many entities involved, it's harder for uniformity to occur. But I don't know what you can do to get around that, if anything.
Tafka had an MLS-based question to the floor this morning, and I figured I would bring it in, Mike, since you're with us now. And Tafka asks, and he says, if I were Chicago, especially Chicago, or Crew, or Dallas, or Houston, or any team that struggles for attendance, This COVID pandemic and league postponement, though terrible, is a major opportunity. Start planning now. When we finally get back to having live attended matches, there's going to be a significant sentimentality and eagerness for citizens. Make it a club rebirth, a statement of intent. Get your name on the tongues of soccer fans. Let them know that you want them there. Let them be a part of the story of resurrection. Create events. Make the players available. Do everything you can to tell fans that you aren't MLS 1.0 anymore. The world hit the reset button in March. If you want to make change happen, now is the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Tafka brought that up this morning.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chicago's already done it. I think Chicago was on that path before everything got derailed. But, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just really optimistic. But I see this whole thing, again, being a great opportunity for Major League Soccer, especially and I know this looks less optimistic by the day, but if they could get into a position where they could get back quickly and be the first team sport back playing competitive matches, even if it's with no fans, I think you have such a potential captive audience on television that there's an opportunity for the league to capitalize. Not to mention the fact that this league is in a unique financial position where with single entity ownership, you don't have the same concerns that you have in Europe with clubs folding or clubs going bankrupt or anything like that. You have a lot of very wealthy owners who are going to be able to prop this league up as best they can and maybe even capitalize on the opportunity to buy some good players for pennies on the dollar from clubs in other parts of the world that really need the cash. So to Tafka's point, I think there's huge potential and great opportunity for Major League Soccer if they can get back quickly. Obviously, safety first, and that's going to take the biggest priority. But again, I think Major League Soccer is in a unique situation even there where, to restart baseball, you're going to have at least a month's worth of spring training. Everything I've been told in the NBA is 2 weeks of individual workouts, 2 weeks of 5-on-5 before they can get back. I don't know what the National Hockey League is saying, but if Major League Soccer, with the season already underway and players already doing cardio and whatever workouts they can do at home, in Atlanta United's case, they all took home spin bikes from the training ground, you might be able to accelerate a training camp through small group work and then some teamwork and maybe get back really, really quickly. Whichever team sport is back first, I think is going to reap a benefit, at least initially, with broadcast ratings. And I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to rush back because safety needs to take the priority, but I look at it as a genuine opportunity for Major League Soccer if they can capitalize on this.
Yeah, I think the teams that Tafka mentioned specifically, you could have the potential for, and we don't know timelines yet, but you could potentially have the first Columbus Crew game back with fans in their new facility. Like that could be an absolute rebirth. Dallas and Houston can kind of launch new initiatives and find new ways to communicate with their community, which they've both struggled to do, to draw people into their buildings. Chicago, I really think Chicago has an opportunity here to fix the bad rebrand that they did. And, I mean, is it as bad as some people reacted to? No. It's not the catastrophic mess that some people have portrayed it. It's not good. If this was their original brand and this is how they were introduced, it'd be okay. You'd probably want to see it rebranded. It's not an upgrade from what they had before. This is it will be an opportunity to kind of reset if they so choose. And you look at just comparing it, and Chris Kilroy sent it in. I'm not sure if you've seen it, Mike. The Chicago Red Stars, the NWSL kits that were introduced, beautiful.
Yeah,
their branding, and this was all done in-house. Absolutely beautiful. And you compare it to what the Fire have, and it looks like a pro team and a minor league team. Louisville scrapped their new logo even before the season started. They said, all right, because of this outcry, we're not going to do this. We're going to go back to the drawing board. Chicago could do that now, and could you imagine the goodwill they would get? Because nobody's liked the new branding.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I mean, good points all, and I agree with you, Jason. And that would be a step, but the biggest step is to sign better players and win matches.
Of course. But you can't really control that part right now. So you can
not
do what
at the
you
moment.
can control.
No, absolutely not at the moment. So you're right. Yeah, but I mean, logo and kits aside, I think Chicago's done a lot of really positive things.
Agree.
Getting their matches on WGN, hiring Arlo White, getting back into Soldier Field, making a couple of those player signings that move the needle. Like they're on the right track. But if you're talking about doing something right now while we're all in this pause, then yeah, sure. I mean, tweaking the branding or rolling out a new kit would absolutely be something they could do. I think that's a Band-Aid solution.
It is.
I don't think that's anything that's going to make a huge difference once matches have resumed. It's just a Band-Aid solution for right now.
Yeah, it's something right now to energize people. You've got to follow it up, and that's going to be the key in all of these situations. The same if they get on the field first. If MLS gets on the field first, that's great for week one. But if you don't capture people by the time everybody else gets there, then you lost the opportunity.
100%, which is why the quality of play and the quality of the production has got to be very, very high. And that's maybe a little bit counter to what I've been saying about trying to get back as quickly as possible, because if you rush back and the quality of play isn't good, people aren't stupid. What we have seen is people are starving for sports content, but they aren't starving for crap. The horse tournament that the NBA tried to do got terrible ratings because it was a crap product. So it's a tricky balance. It's a very, very tricky balance where you want to have some determination to get back quickly and fill that void. But if you come back too quickly and you do it in the wrong way, you may end up turning some people off for good.
Yeah, the horse tournament idea, I like the idea, but I don't think you can do it remotely. I think you have to do it, in the same building, and then it can actually be fun. But yeah, the way they tried to do it, that was bad.
It was hideous. I mean, it was just hideous. I mean, if you can get cameras into the homes of 50 or 60 draft prospects, and it doesn't look like it's being shot by a 10-year-old, I don't know how you couldn't do that with 8 NBA and WNBA players. That was a mistake, because that was the league and the broadcaster assuming people will watch anything. Yeah. And they learned a hard lesson that is not true. They probably ended up losing money on it, to be honest with you.
Well, and I mean, think about what NASCAR has been doing with iRacing. Mm-hmm. And when that popped up, folks have been gravitating toward it because of the growth of esports, the interest that folks have in esports, but at the same time you have your current drivers engaged in that activity.
Yeah, and also the broadcasting network treated it like a real thing, which gave it credibility. And I think what MLS has done with the FIFA games has been good. Like, it's been watchable, it's been fun, but it's not the same. So, look, everyone's in a tough spot right now. And to Tafka's point again, I mean, I think there are some real opportunities for some of the clubs that are struggling a little bit attendance-wise to take this opportunity as an inflection point, maybe reset a little bit. But I think the other problem you're dealing with, too, is that there's so much uncertainty about the economy. There's so much uncertainty about when this is all going to come back, who's going to come back once you do get the green light. That it just might not be worth the time and the effort right now to do it if no one's going to be there to see it.
You need to do it in a genuine, cost-effective way. And I think what we've seen is brands that have positioned themselves good for the long haul during this, and this is across all industries, have made it about individuals and about community. And ultimately, that's what soccer clubs should be doing anyway. It is about individuals. That's why Atlanta United had the success they did straight out of the gate. You felt like you knew Darren. You know, you might have had a beer with him in the pub. You might not have met him, but you feel like you knew him because he was out there and he was interacting with people. Dallas, Houston, those clubs that are struggling to do that, they need to try to take advantage and be as open as possible right now in communicating with their potential audience because you got the time.
Yeah, the time. Yeah, I don't know if you have the staff. I mean, a lot of clubs have not been very, I think, open and forthcoming about where they are with staffing right now. I mean, RSL is the only one we know of that's furloughed people, but I would imagine there have been others. And some of these clubs to begin with employ contract employees and seasonal help, and they don't really have a lot of full-timers in the front office. So, I mean, I don't want to throw cold water on what you're saying, Jason. I think you're 100% right, but I think we also need to be a little bit realistic about these clubs' capabilities to do things like that right now. And again, like we'll take Chicago as an example. If you're talking about a rebrand, you got to hire an agency. Okay, that's not cheap.
No.
And then the agency has got to probably partner with a whole supply chain of, merchandise and art and broadcast and all. It's a lot of different things. These clubs just they're looking for places to cut right now, not spend, because we don't know what this is going to be like when it's all over. So
no, all that's true, but I think that clubs who don't try to find an opportunity here, businesses that don't try to find opportunity here, are gonna wish that they had later.
Yeah,
and hey, it's not going to be easy. Anything you want to do right now is going to be difficult, but there are ways to do these things. A rebrand might be a bit ambitious, but I think at least you could say what Louisville did and say, you know what, this logo has not worked the way we wanted it to. We've got a great logo that we had before. We're going to go back to that. We're going to go back to the drawing board for next year. Make an announcement like that.
And that doesn't cost you anything. You're right.
No, that's just saying we're going to revisit it. Doing, live chats with your GM. I mean, Darren and Matt doing a podcast has been one thing Atlanta's done. Like, we haven't seen that from other clubs. Like, clubs that are struggling to connect to their community have to try to take advantage of this in whatever way they could. And honestly, I think people are more forgiving right now in terms of those things. I mean, if the GM for Houston, or Tab Ramos, he's a new manager, you get him on board and you get him, to do a live Q&A or to at least just do like a happy hour chat with his fans, stuff like that. It goes a long way to what those clubs need. Like, Atlanta feels very connected, Seattle feels very connected, LAFC, you have that link between your supporters and your club. Some clubs don't have that. I think they're missing out on trying to create it now when they could.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree.
Tofka was looking for something similar to the Cascadia Cup, like a Texas Derby when Austin comes online, doing something because he feels the combined lack of excitement for Dallas and Houston is, in Tofka's words, sad.
Yeah, they're all different, though. I mean, they're all different markets. Like, I think everybody says, like, oh, why are we having a third Texas team when the other two don't draw well? It's not about Texas. It's about Dallas plays in Frisco, and that move didn't work the way they hoped it would in terms of drawing fans. Houston went through a very bad stretch of bad soccer, and they lost their fan base, and they haven't built it back. Yep. Austin, straight out of the gate, has sold tickets like crazy. So it's about the individual clubs. It's not about the state. That could be good because it could get excitement going between all three. If those clubs would get together and say this is what we're going to do next year and have some kind of, I don't know what kind of symbol of Texas you want to have for a trophy, but do it and announce it, and that'll get people excited and engaged. Sure, that's easy.
Hey, Mike, did you hear and this was nothing more than obvious gossip, but the notion that David Beckham was chasing after Diego Costa for Inter Miami?
I did not hear that. No. Like Diego Costa right now, or Diego Costa in 3 years?
No, Diego Costa now.
Well, okay, great if you can get him. But
he would be the ultimate heel in the league.
Yeah. How many designated players does Miami officially have? Did they sign all three, or do they have a spot open?
They have a spot open, and I believe they could buy down Matthias Pellegrini, the young designated player they have, if they needed to.
Very interesting. Well, hey, I'm open to anything right now. I mean, that would be very, very interesting, and I think Miami has tried to embrace a little bit of I don't know how to put it. Like that, they've conducted themselves with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of swagger for being an expansion team. Diego Costa might be a really good fit there. I don't know. I mean, I could barely tell you off the top of my head right now what Miami did in their first 2 matches. It feels like it's been so long. But yeah, I mean, one more big personality to add to the league, and I think from a soccer standpoint, give the league a little more credibility. Yeah, I'd be all for it if they could pull that off.
I'm putting the over-under on yellow cards for Diego Costa if he comes into the league for a whole season. I'm going to put the over-under at 12.
Okay.
Over.
I don't know. That's a pretty high number.
That's about the Leandro line.
Yeah,
I feel like
he would be on the
Leandro
Leandro line. That's a good call.
You know, depends on how many matches Chris Penzo would have the center for. I mean,
quick trigger.
Quick trigger Penzo would probably send him off a few times, but
he probably should send him off a few times.
It would be different. It would be fun to see. I think it'd be good for the league if they can pull that off.
Yeah, that would be very entertaining. He would be a handful for center backs to deal with. There'd probably be a few fights.
Oh, speaking of center backs, I'm glad you brought that up. That was Jason's other question for the day.
Yeah, I was trying to go with the smoother transition there, John, but okay, that'll work too. We had the question on a Friday flashback of your favorite center backs of all time.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, Michael Parkhurst, obviously.
Yep.
And that goes beyond Atlanta United, by the way. Boy, that's kind of like asking me, like, who's your favorite offensive guard of all time in the NFL?
John Hanna.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a crucial position, and teams with good interior line play tend to win Super Bowls, but you don't really spend a lot of attention admiring their play.
Jerry Kramer.
I think at times center backs get admired when they score goals, and that's really such a little part of what they do, but that's the ones you think of. And it's a shame. Yeah, you're right. They don't get enough credit. We're trying to give them a good spotlight here. Like national team history with the U.S., you've had Alexi Lawless at center back. You've had John Doyle at center back. You've had Marcelo Balboa at center back. I wouldn't put Thomas Dooley there, although he's played it some. One great American center back is also with Atlanta United in the front office, Carlos Bocanegra.
100%. Yeah, and he was part of the 2010 World Cup team. I think he had the armband in 2009 in that Confederations Cup run, if I remember correctly. The team that beat Spain. Carlos, I think, often gets really, really overlooked when we talk about a very successful era of the national team in which they made the final of a major tournament in 2009 and then turned around, won their group in 2010, which was maybe the toughest group, or one. Well, no, I shouldn't say toughest, but it was not an easy group. It certainly wasn't as tough as 2014, but it was not an easy group. They won their group, and they almost got into the last 8 in that World Cup in 2010 in South Africa. They were extra time away from going to the last 8. So I think we forget about him a lot. I think he's very much underappreciated because his leadership at a time when the national team was doing some unprecedented things was obviously very, very critical.
Did I see the story once that Carlos Bocanegra offered President Bill Clinton a beer post-match once?
Yeah, I think it was after the Algeria game. Where they won and got into the round of 16, and they were celebrating it. I'm pretty sure it was that one that Clinton was there at the World Cup, and I think he was like somehow attached to the U.S. Federation at that time, some kind of advisor or something. honorary board member or whatever. And yeah, you had a bunch of celebrities around the team at that time. 2010, like, I think because of 14 and the way the time zones worked out, you had games on at 6 o'clock, which was perfect, and you had the drama with the Ghana game, and you had Klinsmann and all of that. I think the 2010 team, outside of the Donovan goal, gets totally forgotten about. And that was a great team.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got a draw against England, and thank you, Rob Green, but you still got a draw against England, a really, really good draw. You got a draw that should have been a win if not for the referee against Slovenia. And then you got the Landon Donovan magic, one of the great U.S. soccer moments in history, against Algeria. And then you almost beat Ghana. You were really, really close to going to the last 8. And it is funny how 14 is remembered so much more fondly. I remember 14 totally differently. And it wasn't a poor U.S. performance. They were in a very tough group. But yeah, they had a fun, dramatic, exciting win over Ghana. Then I remember, and look, no disrespect to Ronaldo for a beautiful goal, but they kind of choked against Portugal.
They blew it against Portugal.
They blew it. And then, they played a really tactical, not very fun 90 minutes against Germany when both teams pretty much knew they were going through. And then, if not for Tim Howard, that could have been 5-1 or 6-1 against Belgium, and not in the good. So, yeah, you're right. The time zone was a lot more friendly, and ESPN provided great television coverage, and I think there was at least a sect of USA fans that thought that with Klinsmann, maybe there was reason for optimism and reason for hope. But, I mean, Costa Rica had a better World Cup in 2014 than the United States.
Yep. I'll take the 2010 team over the 2014 team every single time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if we're ranking them, at least in our lifetimes, for me it's 2002, followed pretty closely by 2010.
Yeah.
And then probably I'd put 94 over 2014, to be honest with you.
I would too. I'm with you.
To be totally honest, I'd put 94 and then, maybe then 2014 and then maybe, oh boy. I mean, then you get into a debate. Is it 90 or 06?
And 98. I mean, those are the three.
Well, 98's at the very bottom for me. 98 would be at the very bottom. To me, I what I start to debate is, what do you remember more fondly, 90 or 06? A lot of people forget 06 did get a draw against the world champions.
That's why 06 is there for me, and it's more about than 90 or 98. And I'd probably put 90 ahead of 98 because 90 you didn't have any expectation.
Right.
The first match was horrible.
90, you were just happy to score a goal.
Yeah, you were. And you gave Italy a good game, in Italy, so you hang your hat on that. Like 98, there's nothing to remember fondly at all. At least 90, you had the close loss to Italy at the Olympic Stadium in Rome.
Right. Yeah, and 06, I mean, you got a draw against the world champions.
Hard-fought draw, too.
You played pretty well against Ghana. You had a really tough opening match against Czech Republic. Really, really tough opening match. And I think the other problem, too, was that I think the expectations for 06 were just unrealistic because you had come off that great tournament in 02. You had easily qualified in 06. You knew you were going into a very difficult group, but you thought, okay, you can beat Ghana and maybe get a draw against Czech Republic or Italy and hold on and maybe go through. I just remember 98. That was an uncompetitive group, completely uncompetitive. Now, very tough opening match again against Germany. Didn't play that badly against Germany, but soundly beaten. Embarrassed by Iran. And then embarrassed by, was it Croatia at the end or Yugoslavia? I don't remember. Yugoslavia at the end. And that was a group that you thought you had a pretty good chance of at least going through and getting second. Germany was going to win the group, but but they just laid a complete egg. And the more that we find out about what was going on within that team, I think just makes it even more sour.
Yeah, the 2006 team felt like it was a little bit in between generations, and one of the players on that team at center back is my favorite American center back, Eddie Pope. Eddie Pope was, in his prime, as good of a player as the United States has ever had. And he was at a time where, like, now I think he'd be a $20 million player. He would go play anywhere he wanted to. Big money coming in for him. He was that good. Playing in MLS at that time, he wasn't really seen that way, and the big money didn't come in, and he decided to stay and play in this league. And, 2006, he was 32. He was kind of at the end of his run. He had a good 10-year professional career, but he's as good as it gets, as smooth as it gets as a center back.
Yeah, for me on my list, the three that I had, excluding, say, Michael Parkhurst or anybody out of the U.S., I had Vincent Kompany, Franz Beckenbauer, and Daniel Passarella. Those are my three.
Not bad. Going old school with Beckenbauer and Passarella.
Considering I'm 98 years old, with Beckenbauer, I remember him later with his time with the Cosmos, and that was my drawing card there. Passarella, completely and totally superficial, because I remember when they won the World Cup and he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated holding the trophy, buried somewhere in my stacks. I still have that Sports Illustrated, and I just loved the photo.
If you do an all-time best 11, you have Pele and, the best players of all time. If you do an all-time best 11, Beckenbauer is going to be in it.
I think so. I think he is. You could actually put him in holding midfield because, like, his game now would be kind of a classy number 6. He played that old school sweeper role where the sweeper was expected to step up and carry the ball forward, which is what we have our defensive midfielders do now. He would have been a different kind of version of an Andrea Pirlo kind of holding midfielder that you wanted on the ball as much as possible. So, yeah, that's a good call. Passarella, Diego Maradona would disagree with you. He would have some very strong things to say to you, John.
Of course he would.
Yeah, he ran Passarella out of the camp in '86. Mike, thank you for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Yes.
I know things are pretty hectic over at the station these days as things start to get somewhat back to normal.
Yeah, we're ramping up, so it's good. The hectic stuff. I don't know. I enjoyed the last month of not having a lot to do, a little more than I remember. I guess, because it's meeting after meeting after meeting. But the good news is we're getting ramped up, and I know if you're an Atlanta United season ticket holder, we're going to have. You may have gotten an invitation in your email. I don't know if it came out last night or this morning, but 5:30 on Monday. Darren and Carlos and Brad are going to do a video conference with season ticket holders. I'm going to kind of moderate. So definitely looking forward, if you're a season ticket holder, to seeing you all on Monday and taking your questions. I don't know if we're going to get any news out of it or anything like that, but I think it'll just be good to kind of reconnect and catch up with each other.
Oh, what's next in the egg? I forgot to ask.
Oh, so yes, thank you. Cinco de Mayo is Tuesday, so this is I guess the closest we can get to that. So doing a carne asada today.
Ooh,
and
nice.
Then going to take that carne asada and throw it over some nachos, because Leanne and I love nachos. And Leanne was hand-squeezing lime juice all night last night, so we're going to have some fresh lime juice for margaritas as well.
Oh,
nice.
Well done.
Good work.
Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully, we're doing everything from scratch, including the cheese sauce. So we'll see how it turns out.
All right. Good stuff. Well, we'll be following along on Twitter, Mike Conti929. Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys. Good talking to you.
Be good.
Yep, talk soon. All right. We have an interview for you before we come back and wrap up on the Friday flashback. Joe Garcia, Nofo Bruco in North Forsyth. We talked last week, and technology foiled our attempts. But we got Joe back on the line, talked a little bit of soccer, talked a little bit of beer, and they are in kind of an interesting situation because, Forsyth County, and they're up in the northern part of the county. You're, an hour away from Atlanta?
Yeah.
They've had very little of issues with the coronavirus right now, and as things start to ramp back up, of course, following all the procedures that they're allowed to do, but they're actually able to open up the tap room today on a very limited basis. They've got some new stuff for you and got a chance to talk to Joe about that. So here is Joe Garcia from Nofo Brew Co. Welcome in, Soccer Down Here interview with our friend for the second time. We're going to get this right this time. Joe Garcia, Nofo Brewing up in Forsyth County. How are you, Joe?
Hey, what's going on? Good to be with you.
Yeah, we did the teaser last time. We tried this once. I had this happen at the end of the show yesterday where my Wi-Fi at home just completely dropped at the very end of the show, so at least it timed out correctly. A lot of people, are putting a lot of strain on their internet right now.
Yeah, I heard the Netflix viewership is through the roof right now.
It's crazy. I mean, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, whatever it is you use, there's certain industries that are doing really, really well at the moment. There's others, we're all trying to figure it out. And what I wanted to get to with you is, how are you guys figuring out what this new normal is right now and what it might be soon?
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. We're, taking it day by day and week by week, and feel like I'm slowly becoming an expert in reading executive orders from our governor. Never done that before, but
yeah.
Taking them line by line and dissecting them and figure out what applies to us and what supersedes the previous thing and all that, and basically what does it all mean for our business. And so we're navigating that process right now, but we're working our plan and marching hard to try to get back open in some form or fashion to the public here very soon.
So as things currently stand here at the end of April, beginning of May, what are you guys doing at the brewery today?
Today we are preparing to do a soft opening on Friday, May 1st. So we are going to reopen to the public with a very, very limited number of people. I won't bore your listeners, but there's a whole square footage calculation, the number of people you're allowed and all that good stuff. So we're going to stay way, way under that. We're, doing all the sanitization protocols, all the protocols that are set forth for restaurants and things like that. So we're going to take all those precautions and all that good stuff and checking the boxes for that. And we're going to slowly try to return to business here beginning Friday, May 1st at noon.
So, I mean, there's people who are ready to get out into a safe space and get out of the house and get a little bit of a distraction. For people who don't know Nofo Brew, how did everything come together for you guys?
Sure, yeah. So the idea for the project started a couple years ago. So my two business partners, Brian and Shannon Miles, and I just started having conversations, and the idea of being, big craft beer fans for a number of years and cutting our teeth on, Fat Tire in Sierra Nevada, just like a lot of folks did. Just saw an opportunity geographically for, a place where people could really kind of call their own. And North Forsyth is a little bit less developed in the south part of the county, and they're the closest brewery to us is, about 15 to 20 minutes south, and then about 45 to 50 minutes north. So we saw an opportunity geographically. Longtime craft beer fans. I have a couple friends that own breweries, one here in Roswell, Georgia, Variant, and one in South Carolina, 13 Stripes, and just met with them and, studied the business model and, really just kind of fell in love with the idea of creating a business where, number one, it can benefit the community, but also be a gathering place, centered around, great craft beer and where new ideas and friendships get brewed. So
where did some of the conversations go once you guys decided, as fans of the industry, you wanted to get involved? How do you go from being a fan to being, a business owner in the field?
Sure. Yeah. So we approached it very pragmatically. We asked a lot of questions. We toured a lot of breweries, took a lot of notes, not only in tasting beer and, knowing what great beer tastes like, but also looking at the environment and saying, okay, this first wave of breweries, it has sort of a certain look and feel, but the more progressive kind of taproom forward, maybe version 2.0 after all the law changes in 2017. What does that look like? And I always joke and tell people, hey, if you looked at my Instagram about 18 months ago, you thought I was just a professional beer taster, because I was going all around the Southeast and Atlanta and all around the country, frankly, just visiting breweries, trying beers, asking questions. And one of the awesome and refreshing things about this industry is everyone is very collaborative and very open-handed and willing to just share ideas and information, all in the spirit of making better beer. And that's not something you find in every business. And it was really cool to experience that.
Yeah, it's been really interesting as we've started doing more of these, brewery tours and doing soccer down here on the road, and right now doing a virtual brewery tour. Scott Flood of the Flood Project has kind of explained this to me, and I'm finding it very true that soccer has a community feel to it, but the beer industry in Georgia definitely has that community feel to it, where you guys interact and share best practices and really work in that collaborative way.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And, it's just been awesome and refreshing because, if you come from the business world like I do, in the world of non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality, and you don't share anything with competitors because they'll, try to steal your business and all that kind of stuff. It's just totally the opposite in the brewing industry. And it's just really cool. And, the relationships, and they run deep. Our head brewer, Johnny Bradley, has been in the brewing industry for over 10 years, started as a home brewer, but man, that guy knows everybody around Atlanta, and, has these guys on text message and maybe asks them a question about something if he's brewing or needs to get an idea or bounce something off of someone. And people are just very, very gracious with their time and their information.
Have you found that while everybody's kind of figuring out what this new normal ends up being, that maybe that collaborative process has increased even more?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've gotten some calls saying, hey, what are y'all thinking? What are you guys doing? What are you paying attention to? Hey, we don't have any hand sanitizer. Do you have any? We can buy, and we actually had a surplus, and we were, helping other breweries out by, selling it to them by the gallon for our cost. And, down to, hey, we're out of cans for our crowlers. Can you spare some until our shipment comes in? And just, just little things that just helping one another out. We recently bottled our first barrel aged beer, and we borrowed some equipment from our friends at Cherry Street down the road so that, we didn't have to go out and buy stuff to make that happen. And they were like, yeah, sure, you can use it. It was awesome.
That's very cool. And you guys actually did a collaboration with Cherry Street here recently, right?
We did. It just launched this past Saturday. It's called Not So Distant. It's a sour IPA, and we brewed it there at Cherry Street, their Vickery location. And we had a chance to try it on Friday of last week, and it's out in limited release in their locations. And we're really proud of how that came together.
That's awesome. So you guys opened up actually, not all that long ago, right?
We did. Our first day open to the public was September 27th of last year.
Oh, wow. So from a soccer perspective, bring it back to a little bit of soccer down here, you guys really came in at the very end of the Atlanta United season, and I'm sure that you had plans to have soccer matches, Atlanta United games, viewing parties going on this year. What has the reaction been for you in the soccer community in Forsyth County?
Yeah, I mean, the soccer community is so strong. The youth and development programs in Forsyth County are so strong. And we were, obviously, I'm a big soccer fan, and my business partner played college soccer. So every game that was on, we had it on here in the brewery, and, flying the flag. And we were amazed at the number of people that came out, wearing their T-shirts and the jerseys, and just pulling for the home team. And, we don't put every game on, be it, football, baseball, basketball with sound, but that was the one commitment for, home teams, Falcons, Braves, Atlanta United, and of course, University of Georgia, that we would have the sound on. and everybody really appreciated it. And so we're blown away. We can't wait for it to crank back up. I mean, we've taken our leadership team to Atlanta United games, it's just kind of a team building thing, and we love it. Can't wait for it to get back going.
Yeah, it's one of the real interesting elements as I learn more about the beer community, in that you have the supporters groups with soccer and people who get together to join in the soccer experience. But I'm noticing too in the beer community, you get lots of supporters who are hardcore fans of your product. What is it about Nofo Brew that people have told you that they really appreciate?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're so young. And so, some of the questions we get sometimes is, well, what are you known for? And our commitment, is just to, constantly release new beer and, do our very best to make each beer we release great. And, you can't please everybody, and Untapped, will certainly let you know that if you release something that people don't like. But, we're really trying to dial in the beers that we have. So we feel like we have about 4 to 6 core beers that have kind of bubbled to the surface. And then with the rest of our taps, we just intend to experiment, try new things, release new beers so that, when somebody does come into our tap room, and looks at our menu, that we just keep it fresh all the time. And that's our commitment. Is something that I learned and took advice from Matt Curling, one of the owners of Variant in Roswell, Georgia. And, it's just a commitment that we have. So, but West Coast IPA, New England style IPA, our Saison, our Pilsners, and our lagers are kind of our top sellers.
So give people a tease. What is the next beer that's coming up for you guys that you're working on that you're really excited to get out there to the public?
Well, we took part in that worldwide collaboration called All Together. That was a recipe put out by Other Half Brewing out of New York City. And we're actually releasing that today. So it's called All Together. And we're giving a portion of the proceeds of every sale of pint or crowler to the Giving Kitchen, which supports people that are employed in the restaurant and hospitality space. And so that's releasing today. And then we have our Pilsner called Bluebird Day that's going to be releasing here soon. And then we just brewed a new England style IPA. They actually let me be brewer for a day. Of course, with the training wheels on, of course, and with proper oversight, but they let me brew for a day. So we're pretty stoked about that. We've got several different new hops that we haven't used before, and, really excited for that to come out. And then, of course, the crowd favorite, hard seltzers these days. We have a raspberry lime seltzer coming out that people seem to be excited about.
Nice. Well, let everybody know how they can follow you guys and where you are and how they can come see you.
Absolutely, yeah. So we are just in the north part of Forsyth County, right off of Georgia 400. So if you ever are on your way up to North Georgia mountains, the outlet malls, or anything like that, we are conveniently located right off of Georgia Highway 400. And you can find us on social media at Nofo Brew Co. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the whole deal. And yeah, we're really excited about this next season for Atlanta United when it gets cranked up. I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when. And we're stoked about it. We'll definitely be flying the flag and have the game on, and welcome everybody out to try our beer.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take a road trip. I'm going to have to come up and get some of this. I'm really into that, the Pilsner you mentioned, the Bluebird Day.
Bluebird Day, yeah, it's certainly a crowd favorite. Can't wait to release it, especially in time for this nice warm weather. Mm-hmm. Patio's gonna be rocking and rolling. We'll have, we'll be stocked and ready to rock. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time, Joe. I really appreciate it, and we'll be spreading the word about what you guys are doing. And when we're able, hopefully later this year, we'll have a live Soccer Down Here episode from Nofo Brew.
Thanks a lot. Love to have you.
Yeah, looking forward to getting up to North Forsyth and Nofo Brew Co. to hang out with Joe and the crew. It's awesome to hear, we know about viewing parties in town. We know about viewing parties at breweries, at pubs, etc. Like an hour away from Atlanta, to have a group that gets together and watches games is pretty cool.
Well, when and you and I both know this from having grown up around here, that it's not just inside the perimeter anymore. And it goes from being inside the perimeter to Gwinnett and Cobb County, and then everybody starts to go up 400, and you see the growth of the Atlanta area on the north side of town, and it goes into Fulton County. It goes into that little notch of Fulton County, and then obviously you keep going north and north and north, and you end up in Forsyth County there. Same thing has happened on the Southern Crescent, and it's worked its way down 75 and 85 that way. But to see what's been going on in Forsyth County, once again, it's just a part of the growth, and having the folks at NOFO is just another part of that growth that you're seeing. And it's good that that you're able to catch up with these folks and all of these businesses that are vital when it comes to the local businesses that are part of the fabric and the framework of all of these communities. But now it was good that you caught up with the folks at NOFO.
Beer and soccer go hand in hand, and people want to get together and watch their soccer team live in person, or watching it on TV. People want to get together and have some beers, and it's going to come back. But these breweries are a big part of the community in our state, let alone just the soccer community.
Yeah.
It's important to shine a light on it, and we'll be up there when we can, probably in the late in the year, if we're able to start doing our live events again. That's on our list. And thanks again to Scott of the Flood Project for keeping the virtual brewery tour going, and we'll get the real one going sometime later this year, we hope.
Fast and furious when it does happen.
Yes. Speaking of which, we've got some tweets to finish the show with. What do we have?
Joe Johnstone, going off of your question for the Friday flashback, the ones that came to mind for him when it came to center backs: Jurgen Kohler, Beckenbauer, Bjorn Nordqvist, Bertie Votes. He says, not sure if you're counting him, though, since he's technically a stopper. And yes, I have no problem admitting I'm partial to both German and Swedish defenders.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to include stoppers as center backs in that time. Like, now you could look at, depending on how teams played it, the sweeper or the stopper as more of a personality of a number 6. The stopper more in the positioning, the sweeper maybe a little bit more in the way that they play, at least some sweepers. Some sweepers were ultra defensive and were there just to cover ground. Others were more about what they did with the ball. You've got to put, let's see, who else would be on my list from Europe? More recent, I always loved Vidic at Manchester United. Jaap Stam, two of the center backs at Manchester United that I think are maybe a little underrated. Stam, that's the one that Ferguson feels like he made the biggest mistake on, letting him go when he did. But then that center back pairing that he had for towards the end of Ferdinand and Vidic, that's about as good as it gets. Like, that's an incredible pairing to have. I was never a giant John Terry fan.
Nope.
Not throwing shade. I mean, he's obviously been one of the best that England's had, but just I liked guys who were a little stronger on the ball. I think from the personality of a center back that I'm looking for, I want somebody who can play. And that's what we've seen here in Atlanta so far with Atlanta United, is that's been the priority. Whether it's Parkhurst, whether it's Leandro Gonzalez-Pirez, Miles Robinson really wasn't accepted into the team until he was more comfortable with the ball at his feet. Fernando Meza, it looks like he fits it like a glove. To have a center back who can play with the ball at their feet, it's essential, I think, in the modern game. In the past, you could be more of a physical presence. You could be just a guy who wins the aerial duels. But now you got to be able to play.
Nathan Pugh has a bias alert for his list.
Let's hear it.
Van Dijk makes it look so easy.
Right now,
Call him as you like.
Absolutely.
Daniel Agger, crazy tattoos, but what a left foot.
Okay.
Sergio Ramos, most overrated, but what a leader.
Oh, Ramos is amazing. I don't think he's overrated at all. I think Sergio Ramos is going to go down as one of the best ever. Great player, shows up in big moments. Yes, Liverpool fans will have some things to say. I get it. But Ramos, in terms of what he did with Spain and what he's done with Real Madrid, I mean, look at all the freaking trophies. That doesn't happen by accident. And I liked Sergio Ramos a whole lot more after watching his reality show that Amazon Prime had, and yes, it was more in the line of a Kardashians kind of thing that is scripted kind of and reality kind of, as opposed to like, one of the just total behind the scenes things. I get it. But he came across really, really well, I thought. I liked it. I liked him a lot more after watching it. I have a lot of respect for Sergio Ramos.
Nathan Pugh also lists Vidic because he's Torres' plaything. And he says Chiellini and Bonucci, the best partnership.
Yeah, it's a good one. You got a ton of great Italian center backs, and I wonder where Chiellini will go down in history among Italian center backs. We'll have to get Nick Alifi to chime in on that one.
Joe also comes back in. John Stone says, I also remember hearing something about how much Jason likes to pronounce Swedish names, so he gave me an easy one.
I'm going to let you have that one, Joe.
Uh-huh. So let's see. With what else is on the board from our friend at Soccer Metrics? He says it's great to hear us all again. With when Mike was on the show, he says he's been disconnected from Atlanta United chatter. So is Huntelaar still being considered as a replacement for Joseph? And how did Charlie scoop you all for Matty Ice with a double laughing emoji?
Yeah, seriously. Matt Ryan goes on an MLS podcast. That's funny. I had no idea that he was roommates with Charlie Davies. That's so funny. It makes a lot of sense why you could scoop us.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool, though. Pretty cool to see Matt Ryan popping up on MLS Digital. I haven't heard anything about Huntelaar in a while, but I don't think anybody's really talking about transfers like that right now either. So could it still be a possibility? Sure. I don't know if you're going to have the room salary-wise, money-wise to make that one happen, period, unless he just really wants to come here, which is possible. But I think it's pretty unlikely. I really do.
And that is the last one on the board, sir. I believe we're caught up for a week. Chris Kilroy did show us the Red Stars kit, which is amazing. I just finally got the chance to see the promo and the kit design. I love that. I wonder if they could do like a blue version of that and invert the lettering to white or something like that.
Maybe.
But if that's the home version, I wonder what the away version of the neighborhood kit would look like. I think that'd be awesome. Note out of the USL that they are extending their temporary suspensions of the Championship and League One seasons in 2020. So along those same lines, the previous suspension ran through May 10th, but they are also now not going to have a League Two season. And we're still waiting on Championship and League One as well. USL is exploring scenarios that would allow players to return to training facilities to conduct individual or small group work prior to May 15th now, as opposed to the May 10th date.
All right, we got Nick's chiming in on the Italian center backs. That's a good call, Nick. Chiellini, considered very good, but not a legend. Bonucci will be noted as one of the best distributing center backs in Italian history. Nick's not a fan. I was just looking at a list of best Italian defenders, and it was including outside backs, so it's a little convoluted in this. Baresi will be maybe number one of the center backs. They had Claudio Gentile very high, and my memory of Gentile is the mugging that he gave Maradona in '82 in the World Cup. The World Cup film, they did amazing work because they just basically did an ISO cam on Maradona, but they got Gentile as well, and the grabs and kicks and pulls and shoves and all the stuff off the ball. I mean, it's a masterclass in that kind of defending that you were allowed to do in that era. Now he would have been sent off in the 5th minute. But that game is a masterclass for defending in the early 80s, late 70s, kind of very physical style. I wonder, and Nick will have to chime in on this one after the fact, but Cannavaro, where is he going to go down in history among Italian center backs? Very high, I would think, and he had one of the best World Cups you're going to find in 2006. But where does he rank overall? I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Gentile
Following
was a warlord, according
yes.
to Nick, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
Maldini, you're going to put as more of an outside back, maybe. I mean, could he play at center back in a 3? Absolutely. And you played a lot of 3-man back lines in Italy around that time. So Maldini's going to be an interesting conversation on the center back side. Baresi was your sweeper in those eras, and you would obviously put that there. But he's, again, another one who, in the modern game, could he have stepped up and played in the midfield? Probably. Maldini, I think, on the ball, absolutely could have.
What about Puyol?
Puyol? On the Spanish side, yeah. If I'm picking Spanish center backs, I'm going to go Ramos over Puyol. But, yeah, Puyol, you talk about a warrior. Absolutely. I mean, you're going to follow him into whatever fire he is running into. And great player, great overall player. But I think Ramos was just even better and has had a better career. And if I'm picking one or the other, I'm going Sergio Ramos.
Okay. I just figured I would put Puyol into the discussion and where he would fit, not necessarily if it's a Rushmore discussion or not.
So Cannavaro, according to Nick, internationally, national teamwork rated high, among the best. Domestically, he gets slighted because of how he left Juve. But that is Nick's favorite outside of Maldini. Okay.
All right. Okay. Other note out of the USL is that League Two sides will play exhibitions to stay in shape. Word came from Tormenta that is one of the things that they will do is they will take their League Two sides and play exhibitions. Some League Two sides, but not all.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold on. Tormenta will do it because a lot of their League Two players were local. Other League Two teams that bring guys in from out of town. You're not going to bring guys in from out of town to play exhibitions. You're not going to spend that money. So teams that have a local base of players, if you have an academy, sure, you can set up some games, maybe, possibly, when that's possible. But League Two, you couldn't play a season because you can't get everything started quick enough, and it's such a short season that it doesn't make sense.
Right, and they're looking at the Y League, and the Y League would not start, I believe, until July 1st at the earliest, but that's still
that's all up in the air. Statement this morning out of the Premier League, they have reconfirmed their commitment to finishing the season after talks today, so that's where things stand in England. They are going to try to finish this thing. France has not, Netherlands has not. You've got differences of opinion across all the leagues about what it's going to look like, but England says they want to finish it now, and that's where things stand.
Yep. I think that's a week, sir.
Yep. We will have some stuff on the podcast network over the weekend. Lots of different things will be dropping for y'all. And maybe we'll do some kind of a watch-along or hangout or something on our twitch.tv. Make sure you're following us on Twitch. It's soccer down here, just like it is everywhere else on Twitch. We had a fun watch-along last night with U.S. Trinidad and Tobago 1989. That's going to stay in the archive there on Twitch for a little while, so you can go back and watch that. You can still go back and watch our watch-along with Stephen Glass of Atlanta United 2 of a match from last year. That's up there for another couple of days, so if you haven't seen that one and want to dig into it, twitch.tv/soccer down here. And just be on the lookout. You never know. We might pop up and hang out and crack open a beer or a Diet A&W or whatever John's got going. Well, he got very excited about that. I thought you liked Diet A&W.
I do, but it's just the premise of having a diet beverage. That's what that was about.
Okay, fair enough. Well, John can have his diet beverage of choice, and I'll crack open a beer, and we'll talk some soccer or who knows what else with you on Twitch at some point this weekend, and we'll go from there.
Yep. Good news from the Chattanooga Red Wolves, and we'll catch up with them later today, and that'll be out as a part of our weekend releases of Stuff, official term.
All right, no 3-hour show for you today, Tofka. Thanks for the call, but not going to happen. Maybe sometime soon if Scotland goes crazy again, it'll happen. So we'll be back throughout the weekend, and we'll be back in our regular time on Monday. Mucha platio.
Mucha platio.